Let's talk about why you should never compare yourself to another. So, I'm really talking to, let's first talk to you, the soul, and then let's talk to you, the ego or the persona, and then we'll talk about it for you as the executive or the director or the professional or someone who wants to be that. So, the infinite creator helped me understand that, we don't understand how beautiful we are, and that we have to be our unique puzzle piece in order for the puzzle of humanity to fit together. You have to be that. We are conditioned to believe through marketing, advertising, that then plays out in what we think, and therefore it plays out in what we teach our children, how things are taught in school, etc., and in the workplace. So we're taught that we have to be like everyone else. And the way that shows up is it shows up that in the workplace, we believe, because we've been told to believe, not but because we actually believe it, we've been told to believe that we cannot be vulnerable in work. We're told that we cannot be our authentic self, whatever that is. And that's not real. In actuality, your vulnerability is your biggest strength. And so I want to talk to you as the executive. So I am going to give you a real example that I've experienced, and the way that I handle situations like this is absolutely from a place of vulnerability. And through me being vulnerable, I give my clients the opportunity for themselves and for the team to then be vulnerable. All right, I can think of many examples, but I'll describe one. So, in this one example, we assisted our client to develop a policy for how they would, basically it was a strategic plan for equity, how they would integrate equity in their operations. We looked at their systems, we realigned their systems. We developed a strategy for how to train their staff. Anyways, all these different things. So there was this one aspect of the policy that was a hiccup, and the reason why it was a hiccup is because the director who was in charge while we were working on the project had left, and so now we had a new director. And so that director had a different vision, of course. And the other thing is that director was specifically hired to come in and conduct a number of change management processes within the organization that would bring better alignment to the resources relative to the outcomes, which is super dope. So what we do is we do change management. That's what we do. Now, the thing that was a tiny bit frustrating is that I was not aware that the organization was going to go through this change management process because I had been working with the previous director. And so if I had known they were going to do this change management process, I would have suggested that we, put our work on hold until the change management process begins so that we can be in alignment, whatever the heck the change is going to be. But that didn't happen that way. Okay, so we get a new director, and so some of the changes were pretty significant. So we had to stop our work for about, I don't know, 4 months or so while he worked on some of these change management processes so that they could understand the direction that they were trying to go in. And so then based on that, then I pretty much rewrote this strategy because some of the strategic objectives and the performance measures were not in alignment with the new change. So I had to regroup and redo the thing. Okay, so what happened was there was a particular section of the document that made him and his staff uncomfortable because of the language that we were using. And so what happened was they took the document and rewrote it. And the document that we had created, and they rewrote it. And they rewrote it because the language that they, when they reviewed it, they felt like the language, the staff reviewed it, and they felt like the language was not using common and simple language for the external public, and also other leaders within the organization could fully understand it and therefore would have a difficult time implementing it, etc. Okay, so they rewrote it. Now, here's the thing. So as an equity consultant, there's one of two ways that you can handle it. You can get frustrated, you can get mad, you can go off on your client, you can say, what the hell, or you can look at it from a higher state of being. And you can have that conversation with your client. And in my situation, the old me would have been frustrated. The new me was not frustrated at all. And so the other thing that struck me had to do with the fact that they rewrote the entire document. And so when I had the conversation with the client, I was having the conversation with the client to help them understand, why did we write it in the way that we wrote it in the first place? And so I communicated that with them from a place of vulnerability, which is, and I initiated the conversation from that perspective first. And through that vulnerability and being vulnerable, the client was then allowed to be vulnerable back with me because I helped them understand there's no judgment here. This is, let's create the best product for you to meet you where you're at. So in this case, what I said to them was, I understand why you would create it, rewrite it. The thing is, and I also help them understand that oftentimes we write things for ourselves. And so when they rewrote this policy document that was an outwardly facing document, a document that would be utilized with the public, I helped them understand that they were rewriting it not for the public, but they were rewriting it for themselves. And what I mean by that is that it's as though I, namely Amber, a woman of color, it's as though I have a different consciousness than the consciousness of the dominant culture. And so what brings me value, and the language that brings me value and resonates with me, is going to be a different type of language than may resonate with the dominant culture. And that it's okay that they rewrote it. However, they need to understand that they rewrote it so that they could understand it themselves. And that because they couldn't understand my consciousness. So they have their consciousness for which they have all these biases that they're applying to reading the document, that they don't think in the same way that I do. They don't apply the same filters. And so because the bias is the filter that they're then placing on the scenario. So in coming at it from a place of vulnerability, which is, I understand what's happening. There's no judgment here. How can we get you the best product? And if you rewrite it and it's written this way, it might not resonate with me. It may resonate with you, but you want it to resonate with me. So therefore, you can continue to choose to write a document that is written for the dominant culture, or you can write a document that is written for someone like me. And through that, they then could see, oh yeah, you're right. I rewrote it because I couldn't quite grasp some of the concepts because of their consciousness and the filter that they put on the document. So that is just one example about how being vulnerable is a strength. And I would say to executives that vulnerability as an executive is actually your biggest strength. It's through being compassionate with your staff and your colleagues. That's where all the growth is going to happen. That's where a stronger teaming camaraderie is going to occur. It's not when you're closed that you're going to be strongest. We believe that because that's what we've been told. We believe that that's strength, but that's not real. And in actuality, heart-based leaders are more successful because their employees are more vested in the work. They're vested in the services. They're vested in the client outcomes. And so they're more likely to be vested in their work and to contribute because they see that they're doing something for a higher good. And that all stems back to who are you? So you have to be your unique puzzle piece, whatever that is. And that also means that you have to allow others to be their unique puzzle piece. And if you are a good executive, I'm just saying, if you are a good executive, and you are confident and believe in yourself, and you have filled yourself up with your own self-love and confidence, that's what results from self-love is confidence, that you see that each person is contributing to the bigger puzzle. And so competition is not really needed because it's more like each person is just contributing their puzzle piece to the bigger puzzle, and it's all works out perfectly. But if you can't see that, then competition and a culture of domination and bias is going to be one that exists within your workplace culture, and it's a reflection of you. So anyways, I hope this was helpful. I will see you soon.